In a moment from now, we will be joined by Geeta Mohan and Rajesh Pawar. But before they join me on the broadcast, I want to cut across to India Today's executive editor ShivAroor for more on the story. Shiv, the devil would lie in the detail as far as this peace, this so-called negotiation and road to peace is concerned.
Gaurav, and that skepticism will not be misplaced, because remember, you're talking about a country that has been bombed and devastated for 34 days non-stop. Even while you and I are interacting here, that devastation is continuing in vast parts of Ukraine right now. Even if you look at the small little details of what Russia has declared after these peace talks, the skepticism comes from within. They've promised to reduce hostilities in two cities, Kyiv and Chernihiv, the capital city, and Chernihiv, which is north of Kyiv, very close to the Russian border. But the bombings haven't said anything about stopping hostilities in places like Mariupol, in Kharkiv, in Kherson, in Odessa, in Mykolaiv, in Zhytomyr, all of these other places which are still being bombed, into oblivion. How does this figure as a ceasefire in any stretch of imagination? Number two, they're saying that a face-to-face meeting between the two sides is possible. That again will trigger a lot of skepticism, because this comes at a time when Putin is saying, "I will thrash them." A lot of contempt has been shown, for any proposal of a Putin-Zelenskyy summit so far. So why this sudden change of heart? The previous times when temporary ceasefires have been announced to facilitate humanitarian corridors in Ukraine, Ukraine has consistently said that these ceasefires have not been adhered to by the Russian side. So the skepticism by Ukraine right now will be extremely easy to understand. Also remember the fact, as Rajesh pointed out earlier, Gaurav, that the peace conditions that Zelensky himself have put forward are a bit of a bitter pill to swallow by many sections within Ukraine. We're hearing even within the government there may be some dissent on the things that have been promised by Ukraine, like sovereign neutrality, putting NATO membership on the back burner, and things like that. So, as always on India Today, we are not going to jump the gun. Big chunk of reality check coming up as far as this peace deal is concerned.
In fact, Shiv, you've been speaking to a number of members of Parliament of Ukraine. You've been speaking to a number of soldiers. When I speak to them, they seem to indicate that they would rather have this decided either ways. Yes, they want peace, but not at the cost of losing, one, their self-respect, and two, territory. As of now, they seem to have lost a large amount of both. They've lost the Donbass region, they've lost Kherson. Russian forces have cut off their access to the sea. And peace at this cost would perhaps be either expensive or virtually suicidal for President Zelensky.
It's politically suicidal, and it's also a bit of an insult, isn't it, Gaurav? Ukraine is a country that has a great deal of, they wear their nationalism on their sleeve. For a country that has, lost thousands of lives in 34 days, vast swaths of territory that have been taken over, by the invading forces, especially in the eastern parts of the country, completely encircling that eastern part. And we have that map as well. Offering to reduce hostilities in two cities, is a bit of an insult, and it should be looked at in the perspective of what Russia has achieved so far, the damage that has been done so far, the stomach that Russia has for an expanded operation. And then juxtapose that with them offering to reduce hostilities in just two cities. Are they trying to test the waters? Is the Kremlin feeling its way in the dark for some kind of, dignified way to de-escalate things, because their objectives have not been met on the timelines that they had set out to achieve them? All of these variables are currently on the chessboard right now. And I think President Zelensky is going to be under a huge amount of pressure, because all the noises that he's been making from Kyiv suggest that he wants to make a peace deal. His hostility, the animosity in his words have drastically reduced over the last few days, as you've seen, Gaurav, because you're right there in Kyiv. You can hear it much more clearer than we can all the way here in India. And that's the reason why I think the Ukrainians are going to weigh this very carefully before probably rejecting it.
Shiv, stay with me for a moment. I also want to bring in our soldier reporter Rajesh Pawar joining me on the broadcast. Rajesh, how do you look at Moscow saying or indicating they're willing for a peace deal, But a lot will depend. A summit between President Zelensky and President Putin will depend on both the foreign ministers of the two countries actually initialing a peace deal. The devil clearly would lie in the detail, but what kind of a peace deal would be acceptable to Ukraine at a time when Russia controls the Donbass region?
Look, Gaurav, if you remember a few days back when the similar offer was made by Zelensky to have a summit meet with Putin, Zelensky said, the Russians said that Zelensky must do his homework before he's ready to meet Putin. What they actually meant was that he should understand the realities on ground, that Russia has taken control of large swaths of land in the eastern and south of Ukraine. They hold two important cities now, and they have almost achieved their military objective. Ukraine has been isolated. West is not giving the kind of help they had promised initially, and it is almost impossible to ship in large pieces of machinery or armament inside Ukraine from land borders. Both Russia and Ukraine understand this, and that is why they said Zelensky must do his homework before this. I am not really hopeful of anything much coming out of this summit in Istanbul for one basic reason, because Zelensky has said anything he does, any agreement he arrives at with Russia will be put to a public vote. And once the public says yes, it can be accepted, then only Ukraine will accept it. And that is not possible under the current circumstances. And that makes me believe that this meeting at Istanbul will not result in much. Gaurav.